Hello, hello, and thank you once again for tuning into my newest podcast, which is called Real Talk About Life and Relationships. Let me just turn off my sound on my cell phone so it doesn't keep making noise while I'm trying to do this. So Real Talk About Life and Relationships. I started it probably about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Um, because again, as I explained in my other videos, I just really wanted to give people some information that they could use for their everyday life because I don't think a lot of people are intentional about these things. And so it causes a lot of problems. It causes a lot of problems in your personal life, in your professional life, and your relationships. And so I just wanted to be a voice out there to give people the right information that they need to actually improve their lives. And so, Real Talk About Life and Relationships. My show is every Thursday at 7:30. I'm sorry, 12:30 p.m. Weekly, and you can watch me on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, which here there LinkedIn. Um, yeah, so I think that's it: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and please make sure you like, share my content with anybody that you think it might be helpful for. So just for those who may be tuning in for the first time, just so you know a little bit about me, my name is Stephanie K, aka Sage the Coach, and I am a multi-certified and master life and relationship coach. I also have a few books out there. I also teach courses and stuff like that, but I'll talk about that stuff a little bit afterwards. But I wanted to kind of get to the nitty gritty today about the topic that I wanted to discuss. Before I do that, I did forget to mention that you can also watch my show via uh, Google Play Store and the Apple iStore and Roku via the Entertainment Theater app. So if you go ahead and download that app, you can see past episodes of my show. My new episodes are not on there. You have to watch the social media streams for the live ones, but you will see past shows on that platform as well. Um, so yeah, I think that's it. So before I get into what I want to talk about today, which is how do we grow? So last week I wanted to put out a show about dealing with some relational issues for the holidays, but I got so busy that I did not have time to do that show. So I'll do it later or maybe around Christmas time or whatever. But so that's what I wanted to talk about last week. I did not do that. But the week before that, which was my first show, I talked about the importance of growth. And I talked about how a lot of people don't really make this a priority in their lives and they misunderstand the meaning of life because they don't understand that the point of us being here is for us to grow. And so today, in addition to since I kicked that off with the importance of growth, I wanted to talk today about how we grow. And so, again, a lot of people don't realize these things. They just go through the motions of life. It's very easy to get caught up in all the stuff that's going on. And actually, a lot of stuff that goes on in life is a distraction compared to what we're all supposed to be focused on. And so, I need to mute this as well. And so, I really wanted to hone in on that the meaning. So, I talked about the importance of growth, but really, if you want to put it and sum it up, it is the meaning of life. The meaning of life is for us to grow. And in that growth, we're supposed to reach certain objectives, which is a whole different um, show. Sorry, I'm trying to mute my phone here too because it's making noise. Okay. All right. Um, so so we're talking about the importance of growth and how essential it is to our personal development, our relationship development, and the choices that we make with our lives. I wanted to hone in today exactly how we grow. Because in addition to people not really understanding that they're supposed to grow, and that is going to determine a lot of other things that happens in your life, people don't know how to grow. So how do we grow? And so I wanted to dive into that today just to give you a really good idea of what it entails, and these shows are going to be foundational for all the other stuff that I talk about later. And so I like to do the foundational stuff first. And so I want to talk about how we grow. And so there are three ways that we grow. And so one of them is spiritually, the other one is mentally, which I also combine with emotions because, as I've said before, if you've taken any of my courses or anything like that, you know that emotions are generated by your thoughts. And so a lot of times people think that their emotions, and that's why you can't trust emotions, because if you change your thinking, your emotions will change. And I always like to give the example of when you're in a movie theater and you're watching a scary movie, and you can be at home watching scary movie too, so don't think the theater thing is a really big issue. But if you are watching a scary movie and you're of course scared, your senses change and your feelings change. Well, your feelings change first and then your senses change. So for example, if you're scared, now all of a sudden you look at shadows differently, you feel really, really afraid. You start hearing noises and stuff like that. Now, actually, nothing in your environment has changed. There's no monster right in front of you that's chasing you. There's no threat right in front of you that's right in your face. But your mind is telling you that something is going on that you should be afraid of, and so now your senses are heightened when actually nothing around you has changed. But those feelings and those reactions are coming from your thoughts. So whatever you think about is going to generate emotions to go along with that. And so if you change your thinking, you can change how you feel. So a lot of times people, and I hear men say this a lot about women. They say we're so emotional, and a lot of women sometimes chase their feelings, but I see men do it too, because they think that they're factual when they're not. A lot of times we see our emotions as something that's something that's going on outside of us, and then we're kind of internalizing that to some degree, but really it's coming from inside of you. So whatever you're thinking about is going to generate how you feel, and then it's going to dictate your reactions and stuff like that. So that was just a little snippet about that. But the three ways in that we grow is spiritually, mentally, which I also classify as emotionally, and then physically. And so I don't really focus on the physical so much because, of course, that's a natural thing that happens automatically, whether we're intentional about it or not. But you can improve or harm your growth physically by not taking care of yourself and stuff like that. But it's a really good example to show you that the spiritual growth and the mental growth that's necessary when you compare it to our physical growth. Because we're born, really, we come into existence as seeds, very microscopic things, and then we grow to be, human beings or adults, and then of course we deteriorate as we get older, and then we die. But that growth process starts from that moment, and so we start from something very microscopic, and then once we get the things that we need in order to grow, we will continue to grow in the womb until it gets too big, and then once we come out of the womb, we continue to grow from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and for the rest of our lives. And so that is what we should be doing spiritually and mentally, and we don't really pay a lot of attention to that. Now, that's also something that happens automatically, whether we are intentional about it or not. But the thing is that we can be intentional about our mental, emotional, and spiritual growth, because it is also happening, and you're a lot of times taking stuff in, and then it's producing certain behaviors and actions and thoughts outside of you without people fully understanding the process that is going on. So it does happen automatically, but you can be damaged in a way that stays with you for the rest of your life. And so we have to be intentional about it, especially as adults, of course, because as kids, of course, we're not ready for that. But as we become adults, it's time to start paying more attention to our spiritual and emotional health, so that we can continue to grow. Now, when we don't grow, it causes a lot of problems. The same way, if you're in the womb and you don't grow, there's a problem. If you are 2 or 3 years old and you don't grow, there's a problem. And so we need to be growing. If we're not growing, it's a problem. And so I in my last show, I talked about how the Bible says to be fruitful and multiply. Well, how do you become fruitful? You become fruitful by growing. You can't multiply what you don't have, so you have to be fruitful first and grow, and then you can multiply what you have, which is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be growing and multiplying what we have and spreading it to other people, and spreading all across the earth. And so that is how we grow. So spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, The physical, of course, starts to taper off at some point, but you do still need to take care of yourself if you want your body to do the things that you need it to do. So I do teach a course about this. It's called Personal Growth and Improving Relationships. And so in that course, I talk about the different, because the different ways that we need to grow, those different things, those different aspects of ourselves have different needs in order to grow. So like when you're a baby in the womb, you need certain things in order to continue to develop in the womb. So so the spiritual part of yourself has certain needs in order for it to grow. And the mental part of yourself has certain needs in order for it to grow. And the physical part of yourself has certain needs in order for it to grow. A lot of people don't understand the difference between these things. So how can you help yourself grow or grow in the right way when you don't even understand what you need? So for example, if you're a baby and you are eating, I don't say a baby, well, I guess I can say a baby. If you're not giving the right food, the right nutrients, it's gonna, stunt your growth. If you are not giving the right mental stimulation, even as a baby, you can not even grow correctly mentally. Like there was a study done some years ago about some babies that were in the orphanage. I forgot what country it was in, but the orphanage was so full and they didn't have a lot of caretakers, and so they would really just try to get the babies fed and diaper change and go about taking care of the other babies. So these babies were not getting a lot of FaceTime. They were not being talked to. They were not being picked up. They were not being played with. And they started having mental delays because of it and even dying because of it. So your brain needs certain things in order for it to grow. And then, of course, your spirit needs certain things in order for it to grow. So when you understand those three different parts of yourself and you start to feed those things what it needs to grow, then you can grow in a healthy, progressive way. And so when I talk about spiritual growth, especially in my classes, the spirit, because again, people automatically think that spiritual growth has to do with religion, and it doesn't. I do not consider myself a religious person by any means. I don't even really like religion. And so that's not what I'm talking about when I'm saying spiritual growth. So spiritual growth is the unseen parts of yourself and the unseen parts of reality. So I have an identity. I can't see my identity. And sometimes people who say they don't believe in God because they can't see him, I find it a little bit suspicious, because there's a lot of things about life that we don't see, but we know that it exists. I know that I have a personality, but I can't see my personality like in its wholeness. I know that I think, but I can't see those things. And so I know that I have feelings, but I can't necessarily show you my feelings other than through my actions. So there's a lot of stuff, like even love. You can't really see love in a physical form, but we believe that it exists. We know it exists instinctively. And so there are things that are unseen parts of ourselves that we don't see. And I'm talking about in a physical sense. I'm not talking about a behavioral sense as far as you're acting them out, because there can be things going on inside of you that are not being acted out in your actions and decisions. So those things that we cannot see about ourselves and other people, including God and stuff like that, is to me spiritual. Okay. And so our spirit has needs in order for it to grow. And one of the things that the core of our spirit boils down to our identity, our personality, the deeper things that we need in life, like connection, love, purpose, depth, and things like that. And so we need to grow those things. And when I talk about growing those things, one of the main factors in growing those things is growing in the knowledge of those things. So when you don't understand how your spirit works, or you don't understand yourself, and you don't understand even when it comes to other people's spirits, like when it comes to intuition and how people feel and what they think, because those things are inside of them and you can't see them, you have a very black and white, a very basic view of life, if I should say that. And so when we don't understand these things about ourselves, it becomes very, very difficult to grow in them, because you're not even fully aware that they exist. And again, I talked about in my last show that you cannot address a problem until you admit that you have one. And I'm sure we've all heard that saying before, but you also cannot grow when you don't understand what you need, and that you have different parts of you that need to grow. And so, so spiritual, that's the spiritual part of yourself. It has to be fed. If it's not fed, it leads to a lot of things like disconnection. It leads to feeling empty. Sometimes it can lead to being suicidal. Sometimes it can lead to depression, things like that. So we need those things. We need to understand ourselves. We need to express our identity. We need to have a purpose. We need to have relationships. All those things that we don't necessarily see, those things need to be fed. If they don't, they affect us in negative ways, which I will kind of go into towards the end of this, sort of the end of this segment. And so another part that we need to grow is mentally. Now, your brain, and this is how I explain it in my course, all of these parts of ourselves are connected and they work so intricately that you don't know the difference between a lot of them a lot of the time. So they communicate with each other on a very, instantaneous basis. For example, if you think that you want to scratch a part of your body, just like I'm scratching my eye right here, I already thought about that. My brain decided, my senses and my brain, everything is communicating with each other. And it went to my physical body to say, hey, you need to raise your hand and scratch your eye because it's itching. So it's not a conscious thing. It works automatically. Your spirit works automatically with your mind. Your mind works automatically with your body. And so when I explain these things, I say that the spirit is where the core of who we are is. The mind is where we process information to gather understanding about all of these things and how to make decisions and go about our life in the way that is going to continue to feed us and give us the things that we want and need. So your mind is like basically a supercomputer that is always making calculations and interpretations and stuff about the input that it receives from your environment through your senses. And so and I think I read something a while ago about we're making hundreds, if not thousands of decisions, tiny decisions every day, most of the time unbeknownst to us about what's actually going on inside. So your spirit is where the core of who you are. That's where the deeper meaning of life and relationship and stuff like that is. And then your mind is used to figure out how to go about expressing these things and getting your needs and stuff met. And then your body is the thing that carries out the action in order to get those things done. They work in that order. When they're not in that order, that's when we start having problems. And most of the time, the order that they work in is that we're not in connection with ourselves. We're not in connection with other people. We don't really know what we need. So our mind comes up with different alternatives or solutions as far as how we can get the things that we need. Sometimes they're not good. And then we carry these things out in our body and it creates a huge mess a lot of the time. And so we have to understand these different parts of ourselves. So your mind, because it is basically a supercomputer that is always trying to interpret information and gather stuff so that we can draw meaning from life, which then again goes to the spirit. We need to gain information in order to use this thing as efficiently as possible. And so it's just like with all this AI stuff that's coming out. If an AI needs information, the more information it gets, the better the wider range of knowledge or answers it can give you, the wider range of understanding that it has. Our brain works in very much the same way, but it is significantly more sophisticated than an AI. And so we are always thinking about, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? And then not only that, our mind extract meaning from our experiences and then puts them in it becomes a part of our belief system, which dictates how we live life and the decisions and stuff that we make, and also the perception that we see things from. And so there's a lot. So anyway, the mind needs knowledge. It needs information. It needs input. If it doesn't have it, there's a problem. That's how you get people who are, I want to say older, but acting young, but there's a lot, still making decisions like they're a young person, but that's a whole different thing, which is not necessarily connected. So anyway, so your mind needs information and you have to feed your mind information. And then again, you have to be intentional about the information that you acquire. Because it's not just enough to get the information, but you have to make sense of the information. And the way that you make sense of the information is through the belief system that you have already been gradually establishing since you were little. It is going to filter and interpret that information for you based on that. And so you can change these things, which again, it gets very complex as you become an adult because your belief system is already pretty much established. You can change it, but the only way you can change it is in your conscious mind by being intentional about what you're thinking about and what you believe. If you think about it and you're intentional and you work on it, you can change your very deeply embedded belief system, even if it's from a child. Again, the mind is very, very sophisticated. And so then, but we have to feed it. We have to understand things. And then those things are going to filter into, again, the choices and the decisions and the actions and stuff like that that we make. And then, of course, lastly, your body, you must feed it. You must take care of it. If you don't, it's not going to do the things that you need it to do. So those are the three ways that we need to grow. And so it's very important that we grow in those ways. And so you have people that do things like go to school because they want to learn, people who learn new hobbies. I mean, we're always in environments of learning. And so that's not something that you necessarily have to be intentional about learning in general. But again, you have to be intentional about what you're learning and to really dissect what you're learning and apply it to the real life scenarios and kind of figure out how it works and if it's good and if it's not good and stuff like that. So the mind is the main thing between the spirit and the body. If the mind is not working, those things are going to be disconnected. They're not going to work well, and you're not going to grow in the way that you need to grow. So the main thing about all these different parts of ourselves, which are spirit, our mind, emotions, and our body, that help it to function is through learning. You have to learn how your body works. You have to learn how your mind works. You have to learn how your spirit works. You have to learn what these things need. And when you don't get them, how they affect you, and to pay attention to those things so that you can feed yourself what you need to live a very more fulfilling life. And so that's how we grow. All of these things are given to us in like seed form, just like our body. It comes in seed form. Our spirit is in seed form, our mind is in seed form, and we, through knowledge and learning, we grow those things, and they grow to be very good and fruitful things, or they can grow to be very damaging and unhealthy things. And so that's how we grow. A lot of people don't pay attention to their emotions. A lot of people don't pay attention to their spirit. Some people neglect their bodies, and your quality of life is going to be affected when you do that, specifically your relationships. And so I like to, lay the groundwork for this first, because I know a lot of times people might tune into my show because they want the relationship information. But as I say all the time, especially in my courses, unhealthy people cannot have healthy relationships. I don't care how much you want to, how much you love a person, how much you sacrifice. If you are not a healthy person, you are going to be unable to have a healthy relationship. And the only way you can be a healthy person is by understanding what your different parts of you are, what they need, and how to feed them. And when you do that, you will grow and feed them the right things, I will say. And when you grow in that way, you will become better able to have healthy relationships, make good decisions, choose fruitful career paths, live a more fulfilling life, not have unhealthy habits, not destroy yourself, things of that nature. And so you need to know what you need. If you don't know what you need, then you're not going to know what other people need. And it just becomes this domino effect of problems, which all stems from you and who you are. Because as I said before, whatever is in you is going to come out one way or another. And so people might try to be deceitful and try to hide what's in them and stuff like that. People might not be aware of what's in them, but what comes out of you is what's in you. And that's when you need to do a little bit dissecting and self-examination to figure out what is actually going on in the unseen parts of yourself. And so, when you grow, which I think I kind of mentioned this already, but I'm just going to go over it briefly, really quickly, in case I didn't, because I talk about this stuff a lot. I teach courses about this stuff. So I end up repeating a lot of the same stuff. And then I don't know if I said this here or there or whatever, but anyway, so when you grow, you are better able to express yourself. You are able to have healthy relationships. You are better able to make good decisions, healthy decisions, and live a more fulfilling life. And so it's very, very crucial. I think that we should be taught these things in school. We're taught math, we're taught science, we're taught how to read, which are important. We need to know those things, but we don't learn anything about ourselves and how we work. Developments in understanding the human body are crucial to the longer lifespans that we can live now, as opposed to how long they used to live before. But we don't learn about our minds and our spirits and our emotions and stuff like that and how they work. And so the advances there are not as efficient, for lack of a better word. Maybe I can think of a better word, but yeah. And so we need to know these things about ourselves. Now, I do think, and I think I've said this before as well, that since COVID, we are paying more attention to mental health than I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. As I grew up, 80s, Black community type of thing, you were supposed to tuck your feelings. Hey, we don't care about that. Your feelings are not important. Nobody has time for that. Get out of your feelings, stuff like that. A lot of attention was not paid to that. And it has trickled into some cultural issues within the Black community of not really paying attention to mental health and stuff that much, which again, I believe is changing since COVID. And so it's good. It's very, very good that we pay attention to these things because they're the source of everything. We easily look at people from the outside and judge what they're doing, but those things come from something that's inside of them. And a lot of times they need knowledge, they need more information, they need to be fed in ways maybe they never got fed in the ways that they needed when they were a kid. And then surprise, surprise, you turn into a criminal or you make bad decisions with your life. And we don't really understand the connection between these things. So it's very easy to judge people on the outside, but unless you can get into somebody's head and walk in their experiences that they have had in life and understand what we need as human beings to actually grow to be healthy, functional people, then it's really not fair to judge people, which is why I think the Bible says not to judge people, because you don't have enough information to judge people. Your brain is not equipped for that. So, but the more information you get about yourself, you pay attention to yourself, the better you take care of yourself, the better your life will be. And so we need to understand the ways in which we grow so that we can do that. Okay, so I see somebody tuned in here. Bean from DeHurst, thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. And be sure to share this with anybody you think might need this information. So I'm going to wrap up here very soon. Yeah, I think I covered everything. I was just looking at my notes to make sure that I did cover everything. And so I just want to encourage you all to pay attention to yourself. I do offer free coaching sessions for anybody that wants to get more in tune with themselves and understand what they need and figure those things out. A lot of the times, as we start to pay more attention to these things, we recognize that there are things that we didn't get and things that we didn't learn that we should have learned. And so we end up working on recognizing what we need and stuff first. And then we have to kind of go backwards a little bit to get all the gunk out of us that might be, especially the really obvious things. And then we can start progressing forward as far as growing in healthier ways. So if you're somebody that feels like, you know what, this is something that I need, it sounds like something that I've been looking for, especially when it comes to my relationship, because I'm always having problems and I'm not sure where to start or what the issue is. You can sign up for a free coaching session with me in order to get some more insight into yourself and start developing in more healthy ways. There should be a link either above or below this post for you to visit my website and get some information on how to do that. I also have my course, Personal Development and Improving Relationships, coming up in January. So be sure to sign up for that if you're interested in just getting a bunch of information at one time. I like to do the courses first before I do the one-on-one coaching because it just really covers a lot of information. It's actually cheaper than the one-on-one coaching. And so you can really get a lot of information from that. And then you may not need the coaching, but then if you get that information, you say, okay, I need some help to navigate this for myself. And then you can go ahead and sign up for the coaching in order to do that. But I do have that course coming up here in January, and I will post more about that at the end, getting closer to the end of this year, if you want to sign up for that. So other than that, that's the end of my show for today. Again, my first show, I talked about the importance of growth. On this show, I'm talking about how we grow. And then in the next show, I forgot what my next show is. It's something about growth, but I'll post that probably by Monday so you guys get some ideas about where we're going to go. So please make sure, again, that you like, follow, share, invite people to my page so that they can get this information if you think they need it. You can also ask questions in the chat during the live show or not. a lot of people watch my show later, so I don't get a lot of live viewers when I'm doing the show. But if you have questions, you can always comment on the post that you see these on, and I will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. Also, again, my website is www.unveilingthespirit.com. You can visit that for more information about me, my courses, my coaching, my books, and things like that. And I think that's it. So you guys be great. Think about some of these things that I'm talking about. If you need some help navigating them, let me know. If not, reach out to somebody. It doesn't have to be me. We all need this information. We all need to grow. It's very, 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 very important. So that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Tune back in next week at 12 o'clock, 12 p.m. on Thursday for more about real talk about life and relationships. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye.